I want you to imagine something. You are walking down a street in New York and you have over $5 for a cup of coffee. Now imagine you walk into a cafe in Paris and hand over a crisp $5 bill for the exact same coffee, same size, same brand, same taste. But the barista just shakes their head. They want €5. Why is that? Why does a dollar buy a coffee in New York but fails to buy the exact same coffee in Paris? The answer lies in fundamental economic theory. We use it to understand global wealth, purchasing power parity. Today, we are going to break down what purchasing power parity is, why it matters, and why a simple burger is the same economic teacher you have ever had. At all its core, a PPP is based on a very simple concept called the law of one price. The theory states that in an ideal world, an identical product should cost the same regardless of whether to buy it when you account for the exchange rate. The formula: if the basket of goods cost $100 in US and the exchange rate is 1 US dollar equal to 1 euro, that the same basket should cost exactly 100 euros in Europe. If it costs more in Europe, the euro is overvalued. If it costs less, the euro is undervalued. There are two types of purchasing power parity. We need to understand them. The first is absolute and the second one is relative. This is the here and now version. It look at the current price level in two countries to determine the current exchange rate. What is relative purchasing power? This is the motion version. It looks at the rate of exchange in prices, that is called inflation. It states that the percentage change in exchange rate over time should equal the difference in inflation rate between the two countries. For example, if the US have 2% inflation and the UK have 4% inflation, the dollar should appreciate against the pound by roughly 2%. Now, here is the issue. The law of one price rarely work in reality, and that is where this point to the Big Mac comes in. For over 30 years, the Economics magazine have published the Big Mac Index. It is light-hearted way to measure purchasing power parity since a Big Mac is made with roughly the same ingredient and labor globally. It's a perfect example of standardized basket of goods. But when we look at the index, we see huge discrepancies. For example, in recent year, a Big Mac might cost you $5 in the US, but the equivalent of 650 dollar in Switzerland. This suggests the Swiss price is overvalued. Conversely, it might cost the equivalent of only $3 in South Africa, suggesting the rand is undervalued. But why is that difference? The first one is due to the transportation cost. It costs money to ship goods. The second one is due to the trade barrier, tariffs and taxes inflate local prices. The third one is non-tradable goods. You cannot export a haircut or real estate. These are local services that affect price level. The fourth one is saturation and preference. The demand for product differed as per the country. So, if it doesn't work perfectly, why do we care about the purchasing power? Because it is the best tool we have for comparing real value. If you simply convert the GDP of China or India into US dollars using market exchange rate, it can make those countries look artificially poor or rich based on daily currency fluctuations. But if we use purchasing power, we adjust for the cost of living. We ask how many goods and services can you actually buy with that money in your local market. By using purchasing power, we get a much clearer picture of the standard of living, global economic power, and who is actually the largest economy in the world. So, to wrap up, purchasing power parity is the inflation translator for the global economy. It tells us that money is simply a yardstick and its length changes depending on where you are. While it's not a perfect predictor of where exchange rate are going because government and speculators get in the way, it gives us a fair value target for the currency value. The next time you buy a coffee or you see a McDonald's overseas, remember that you are not just buying a meal, you are looking at the live snapshot